Happy New Year. Glad to see everyone back. Hope everyone had a great break. This is going to be a long one. It's a little different. Hope you stick around till the end because at the end I'll be issuing you a challenge if you choose to accept it. Enjoy the video. This is my masterclass on how to make better cooking videos, how to create a cooking show, push yourself creatively to make something you might not have thought that you could. So here we go. Enjoy. It's the new year. I guess you could call it season 2. This time last year, I did not have a cooking show. And so it's sort of strange to reflect on everything that's happened this year, how many videos I produced, and how much I've learned. I was not as good at any of the things that I do this time last year. And it was through doing 2 shows a week, almost every week of the year. It's been about 11 months. I've been able to do something that I didn't think I could do. And I get the question a lot, how do you make your videos? I figured I'd just take the time, make a really thorough, comprehensive masterclass type video on how I make videos, my philosophy, the thought process that goes into it. I'm gonna take a subject, which today is going to be something boring, like how to cut and chop garlic. And I'm gonna show you how I would approach that and make it into something that's visually interesting, informative. Ow. I know a lot of people want to make better videos, and I've done a lot of work this year in figuring out efficient ways to make high quality, highly edited videos multiple times a week and do that repetitively without burning out. Let's just sort of jump right into it. So I've been reading cookbooks all my life, watching cooking shows. I remember falling asleep as a kid to the Food Network when it wasn't the Food Network as you know it today. It was like Jeffrey Rosengarten, I forget his name, just sitting in a chair in like a talk show. It was Bobby Flay in like this very low budget show where he was just like this nervous wreck doing a show, having no idea what he's doing. Emerald, and of course I fell asleep every night to Iron Chef Japan. Obviously I followed and watched this stuff throughout my life, and one of my learning disabilities is I'm highly visual and I'm super dyslexic. If you've watched my videos, I have a lot of captions and there's almost a spelling error in every video, and I won't notice it until the video's posted, even if I've reviewed it and edited it. So like for me, numbers, all that kind of stuff doesn't work well, and visual is everything. So I've always gravitated towards cookbooks with photos in them, cooking shows because of the visuals represented and you can kind of see what's going on. But I've always kind of formed my philosophies on how they could be better, especially for somebody like me who doesn't really respond to words the way that I do seeing it with my eyes. And I've noticed over the years, Food Network and all these things, they've become reliant on personality, which is important, but like, I also never see what's going on with the food. Everything is above camera, it's the face, it's the smiles, it's all of those things that they're forced to do, and the producers guide them and what they've been trained to do their whole lives. But I'm missing out all of the action, what's happening here, right? And so that's sort of where the genesis of the show came from. I've been thinking about this for 10 years. I started off with a food truck. I started a food photography production business that led into video production. So everything I've done over the last 10 years has sort of led me to do this in a way that I'm sort of competent in both the food, the photography, the videography, and then the editing. This show is a distillation of almost everything that I am and everything I'm good at. That wasn't intentional. It just happened because I just started doing it. The key here is if you want to get better, you have to push yourself to do something different, something that's not just a tasty video. The way that I see it is you either know what you're doing or you don't, right? So if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're not fully confident in sharing hard educational sort of content, then say that and be upfront, and then say we're going on this journey together to get better. You could have this wealth of knowledge that you want to share and then come from an authority point of view and then teach. I kind of do a combination of both, where I know a whole bunch of stuff that I want to share with you, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know. So that's where this show can go. It could be a blend of me learning the stuff that I haven't made before with the knowledge and technique that I have, and then sharing you stuff that is tried and true. And then the plans for the show go way beyond all of that too, but that's another discussion. We're just talking about videos here. That whole part about what the Food Network does and the personality is sort of why I stay up here. I don't really want you to see my face. I will come down when I'm like really addressing you and look you in the eye, because you're right here. I can see you right there. You're all here. I need to talk to you. I want you to see how I feel about something when I'm talking about it. But when I'm showing you what I'm doing, I want to be out of the picture. So that's how the setup goes. You need to have a perspective, and it also helps to be thoughtful about how your set is designed. I like to change the setup seasonally. During the holidays, I switched it up a little bit more just because the visuals of decorations are a little bit more apparent. I probably won't be as crazy about it going forward, especially in the winter, but like as you see, I still have a little greenery, and you know, as the seasons change, flowers might go there, and just being thoughtful about it, looking for color, looking for something that's a little bit more dynamic than, you know, just a thing of paper towels or whatever, you know what I mean? Just kind of be clean, make sure everything's clean, everything looks good. I take this seriously. This is my business. This is a real show. And if you notice that when I first started, I didn't really want to be on camera. I didn't want to talk to camera. I hated the way my voice sounded. I was just very uncomfortable. And even my early videos when I talked, it wasn't really me. And over time, I just developed this kind of laissez-faire attitude to being on camera, where it's like, if I don't want to smile, I won't smile. If I don't feel happy, I won't necessarily be happy, but I'm not going to try and be a drag. I'm trying to give this feeling of like reality to cooking, and how from day to day we may feel differently and we cook differently because of it, and that's just a part of life. So that's sort of the way I go about it. My genuine goal is to turn this into a business, for it to make money, for it to pay the bills, for it to fund this show to become more than what it is today. I have plans and I'm going to see them through, but the main goal is to make sure that there are more people cooking today as a result of this work than there were yesterday. And that is genuine from the heart. It's the reason I've thought so much about recipes my whole life. I feel like there's a huge disconnection between the recipe writers, the people who are reading them, the people who have different styles of learning, and I'm gonna do my best to sort of do what I can to improve the whole process. So first let's talk about gear. I got this new guy. This is the new GoPro. So I'm gonna use this to sort of show you what I'm talking about while I talk about it. This guy I just got, and what's cool about this is I'm going to turn this into mouth cam, where I can just put this guy here and show you what I'm doing from my perspective. Why I got this is because the stabilization on this is incredible. So all the jerking that my face might do is gonna be okay when I'm using this. So that's what the eventual mouth cam is gonna be when it's turned on. Now this is what I'm looking at. It's not a lot of equipment. I have two cameras. This is the Sony a7S II, and on it is the Rode Video Pro Plus mic. This guy is my main shooter. This guy sits here, the camera that I'm looking at right here, Sony a7S, covers me talking. It's got all my wide angles. It pretty much always sits at 24 frames per second. Now, what is a frames per second? It's just how many frames your camera's capturing each second. And the difference in them is by adding frames, you're going to be able to slow that down a lot in post-production. If you're shooting in 24 frames per second, you're only gonna be able to slow it down like to 80%. Otherwise, your slow motion isn't going to look the way you intended to. The way that you see on TV, the slow, smooth, real kind of slow motion that looks nice and crispy. You're not gonna achieve that unless you shoot at 60 or 120 frames. And that is what this guy is shooting with. This is the Canon 5D Mark III. This is shooting always at 60 frames per second. It's the highest frame rate it shoots at, and I can slow it down to 40% in post-production and get a really nice crispy slow motion. This has a zoom lens of 24 millimeters to 70 millimeters. Gives me enough flexibility to zoom in, zoom out, get wide shots, get tight shots. I don't usually use like prime lenses that don't zoom because I can't afford to be switching out lenses. I can sacrifice a little bit of picture quality for flexibility. And every decision I make basically comes down to flexibility. The camera settings I use for this guy, I'm shooting at 1600 ISO at about 5.6 aperture, 1/125th of a second shutter speed. You want to make sure if you're shooting at 60 frames per second, you're at least shooting at a shutter speed of double that, so at least 120, and I have it at 1/125th, which is perfect. I also have it on this newer tripod that I used to have it on this guy, but the camera kept falling over because this guy is old and it's just sort of weak. So now I can use it for lights or for this GoPro. On the camera you're looking at through right now, I'm using this 18mm to 200mm super zoom lens. What I use that for is for super tight shots, dead on of finished dishes. So I have zoom lenses on both cameras. One's shooting at 60 frames per second. One's locked on a tripod shooting at 24 frames per second. That gives me flexibility. I have two angles to edit from. I can use the two cameras to almost band-aid footage that doesn't look so good. When I stutter, when I'm looking somewhere else and talking, I can cover it up. They're basically always recording. So they're covering everything that I'm doing, so I'm never missing anything unless I actually forget to press record, which I do way more than you might think. But when I do miss record on one, it's likely I didn't miss record on the other, so I do have a way of sort of making it work. It's not ideal, but it happens because you're just managing so many things on your own. And then of course I have a monitor here. This is an Aperture 7-inch HD monitor that's connected to my Sony a7S so that I can always see what I'm doing, making sure I'm framed properly. That's really important. I don't have one for this, although I did just get the new iPad, which is supposedly supposed to be a field monitor for cameras. So my goal is to replace the Aperture, this screen right here, with the iPad, and then move this to this camera so I can see what I'm doing without moving at all. And then the goal is to have a camera over here, off to the side, and then a camera right here. And then this camera is also on a tripod, which I can reach over. This is a photography tripod. It's not really meant for video, but I like it because I can reach over, move it, tighten it, zoom in, zoom out. I have full control over where the camera's pointing. And I need that, and I don't have to move, I don't have to walk around. So if I have a monitor and I can reach over, I can adjust this camera without moving, and then I have a field monitor here where I can adjust and zoom in and see everything's in focus, because this camera I need to kind of pull focus a little bit more. Then I don't have to move. Then I have essentially cameraman set up. I have lighting. I can see what's going on without even moving or doing anything, and that's important, and that helps me not have to worry about cameras and just worry about coordinating movements. And showing and educating on the board. Quick talk about the lighting, right? I have two main lights. I use some of the ambient light from the kitchen, which I don't prefer. It gives a little bit of a yellow hue, which you'll notice sometimes, because it's a different color temperature than the photography lights that I use. So if you'll see, I'll turn the lights off. This is that color light that gives off. My camera just adjusted for it because it's automatically adjusting white balance. But that's something that you gotta keep in mind for. There's also these lights, but they give a yellow hue as well. So I shut those off. And then I have this guy right here, which is a Genray Spectro LED light. It has a diffusing cover on it, and it has all these LED panels. That is what is giving off the light. I put that on and I can adjust the brightness, but I never do because I need it. And that's my key light. That's the main light. That's basically lighting everything up, but it's still not enough. So I need sort of this fill light, especially because I have this camera over here, and when you're lighting food, backlit food, it looks really nice. And so this is my cinematic camera. All of my cinematic shots really come from this one. So I want to use this fill light to sort of cover it up and hit the food that I'm working with, especially sauces and stuff like that, from the back angle, which is going to really make the food look better. You'll notice the more you work with food, there are ways to light it and ways not to. Ways not to light it is basically shining. I also have this little guy. This comes in handy in tight situations, but you don't want to like light food dead on. This shines, right? So you're gonna get all of those reflections coming out of the food. It's gonna not look so good. But if you kind of shaded off to the back, it sort of has this glow coming from the back and it just looks more complementary, and you have still light coming from other angles that sort of fill in. So that's basically my main setup. And the lights are important because I want the food to be captured in as true a color as I can, and I want it looking as delicious as possible. And the way you really get detail is by shooting at it with as low of an ISO as you can. I wouldn't suggest using like automatic on these cameras. You want to sort of dial in these settings. I mentioned what the settings were for this guy, but the camera I'm using here is 1/60th of a second shutter speed, 5.6 aperture, and ISO 500. This camera works better in low light than this one, so I have to use 1600 ISO to get enough light because I'm also shooting at a higher frame rate, and that's all taking light out of the photo. There's a lot of camera technical information that goes in the cameras, and someone who does a really great job of that is The Bite Shot. So I'll link her channel down below if you want to learn the technicalities, camera settings, and all of that stuff. She does a really good job of explaining that. I have my two cameras set up, I have my lights set up. I also have to coordinate a photo shoot in my videos, so that requires me to have a flash. Now this is just a little cheap Joby clamp that can clamp onto, you know, anything, just like that. I have it all together in this setup to create a professional looking photograph of the food without breaking anything down or setting anything up. It all sort of is part of the video set. I have this Canon Speedlight. It's a 430 EX2. It's as good as a strobe light in any photograph studio, but if you're just scaling down the set, which I have a small set here, then you can use something like this. And it's too harsh to just point at the food in any direction. This is the cheapest equipment for photography you can get. Use this for a year. It costs $1 or something, and when I'm ready to take a photo, I just set that up here, and then boom, I have my photography studio set up. If I have something with height and one side of the photo has a lot of shadow, then I just take another one and set it up on the other side so that I'm bouncing light off of one white foam core board into another that's going to fill up the side that's a little darker. I know how much is being done in one of these shoots, so I don't fuss too much about styling and all that kind of stuff. I want it very simple. And you know, this is my set. It's just the light, the camera on a tripod with a mic on it, a monitor, another key light, white foam core on a grip head that's on a tripod, another camera with a wireless receiver that talks to this, so when I trigger this camera, this flash goes off. Like I said, I have GoPros. This is a new one. This is highly stabilized. This is mouth cam. I have this other GoPro that's in a waterproof case, so if I want to get a perspective in the water, when I'm pouring like water in a pot or in the sink or whatever, I can use this guy. They come with these stickies, right? So if you want to get something, stick it on like a microwave if it's on top of your stove, so you can get a perspective down below against the wall of your stove to kind of get a perspective like you have an island kitchen and that's where your cooking show is happening. These are cheap and they're useful. And again, I have this other little light that I could fit in weird places. It is fairly bright in its own right, and it also has a boost, and it's just a good light to have. If you don't have cameras, I know you have an old phone lying somewhere and you have a phone that you use today. You can figure out how to use these to your advantage. These shoot at 240 frames per second when they shoot slow motion. And you can edit out all of the slow motion when you're done taking a slow-mo photo on these. So at the end of the day, you have a clip that is not slowed down, but shot at 240 frames per second that then you could take in an editing software and manipulate it just like a shot coming from this camera, and then you can have control. So there's no excuse, just use whatever you can, just start doing it and find interesting perspectives. Move the camera around. You have to find the angle that works for you. And I found these angles help me show you what I'm doing best. And of course, we're dealing with food, right? These cameras get filthy. There's spots on the camera here. It's oil, just a little lens cleaner. Got some of this rag. You just clean it. Make sure your stuff is clean. The fastest way to ruin all your hard work is to have a smudge on your camera. Same goes for the phones. We touch these, right? So you gotta be careful. You gotta make sure that all your lenses are clean. These are good. This gets all the... You do that before you get it wet, especially with these things. You can kind of do what you gotta do. Just kind of care for your equipment because this stuff is expensive. Now that's basically all the equipment I use to film. I don't want to just be a guy on camera showing you what I'm doing. I want a true format, something that is broken up into segments that allow me to not have to make creative decisions when I'm editing. So I have this template of what a video is supposed to be, and all I have to do now when I shoot a video is fill out the template. Like, I know the shots I need to get, the movements I need to make, I know when I need to talk and when I don't, and so now, like, I've spent the year figuring that all out, so these decisions that used to take me hours take me seconds and minutes because I've already know what the answer is, and that comes from experience and just doing it a lot. I need to fill out an opening montage, which is simply the whole video cut into about 30 to 40 seconds that culminates in the beauty shot that is also used as the cover photo. That then gets cut off the video at the end and used as Instagram content. I have the photo as one teaser on Instagram, and then I have a video that releases the day of that pushes people to go watch the full video on YouTube. And then after that, I have an opening monologue or dialogue that sort of just tells a story or gives you a clue as to what's going to happen in the video. After the monologue, my approach is then to get into the lessons, but break it up, right? Talk about what I'm going to do and then show you what I'm going to do. My whole philosophy on educating about food is, obviously I want to teach you good technique and show you the right ways to do things, but I want to do it in a way that's repetitive and redundant. I'm trying to say these things several times in a video. I show you how it's done in the beginning, and then I'll show you all that stuff again, and then I say things over and over again because it's going to resonate in your mind. Frequency of a message. You won't hear it first time maybe, but the second or third or fourth time, it's going to start to register. And that's my method of sort of getting through to you. If I'm going to think about something as mundane and boring as like how I would show you how to cut garlic, I have to fill in all of these pieces. And it may seem like, how could you do that? But it's very easy, right? So first off, I see the garlic. I'm gonna look at it and be like, what are sort of the characteristics of it? How can I visually showcase this in a fun way to open it up, give you a real idea of what's going to happen? So I see it's kind of like a ball. It can kind of roll. It can kind of spin. So immediately I'm thinking, how do I show this off, right? So I wanna put my camera on, make sure I format my memory card, erase it, and format it every time before I use it. And so I have all my settings dialed in. Gotta adjust this camera. All I'm gonna do now is literally just play with the garlic. Toss it around, spin it, crash them together, drop them. I don't know what's going to look good, but I just want to know I have enough stuff that I'll at least have several shots that are going to work for what I want to do. So here it is. Now is where I'd start my monologue. This is where I want to kind of talk about how I would purchase this, what to look for, the importance of buying it fresh and not like in a jar. Everything I want to say, I want to get at you right now because I'm kind of shy, but when I do get talking, it's hard to shut me up about something that I like. So here we go. One of the things I see the most is people going into their refrigerator. One key is when you're delivering dialogue, just keep going. Don't restart from the beginning. You can stitch sentences together. It's not about getting it in one take. It's about just getting out what you need to say and making it work later. At least that's my strategy. Think. Lots of blank spaces thinking. I don't script much, but I like to kind of wing it. Do you have a jar of garlic in your refrigerator that you bought in the store already crushed? That is such a travesty to me. So boom, that's done. There's not much that needs to be said. You can do your research. You could find something interesting about garlic. You could provide history. You just want to provide value and information. You don't want to kind of go on a tangent. You kind of want to stay focused here. You want every minute of the video to count. So now I'm just going to go through and kind of do the video. So I've got everything prepared. I think that's about as many ways as I want to show how to cut a piece of garlic. Now what I'll do is I'll go and kind of plate on my cutting board. After the montage of how to cook and everything, we move into a separate stage, which is like putting it all together, climaxing at the second time I flash the beauty shot when I'm usually standing on the counter. That's the peak of the video. Everything there after that is the taste test, my closeout, and then the credits, and then the post-credits scene, which is obviously inspired by superhero movies. I'm just gonna find a creative way to sort of plate all of this. Always start off, if you're using flashes, at 100 ISO, around 9 or 10 aperture, 1/125th shutter speed. That's a good place to start, and then you can adjust from there, adding more light or less light if you need. But that's what I do, and I shut off all the lights because, like I said, that yellow will come through in the photo. I wanna control the color, temperature, and the quality of the light from my photo. And by just using the one light, that gives me ultimate control over it. So let's just get right into it. This is the point in which I'm ready to shoot. So I want to take my camera off the tripod, and I want to get a few B-roll shots plated before I take the photo. And this is tough with food because sometimes it's hot. I've used a sauce, and the timing of this has to be right. So having everything set up and just ready to kind of get it on there, jump on top, take the photo is really essential to making sure that the food is staying the way you want it to look when you're ready to get that good shot. Actually, the first one I wanted to do is this one sliding shot, and this is where the final shot I want this camera to slide into. So as long as it's set there and it starts there, I can reverse the clip even if I push it and it doesn't land where I want to. I know it started out in the right spot. So if I move it like that and it lost focus or whatever, I can then in post-production reverse that clip so it starts on this side, and then when it plays it just moves over. But you can just move it really slow, and you can achieve a slider movement by just changing the speed in post-production, so that could look quicker if I just speed it up. And since it was nice and smooth, it won't be jerky in post-production. So I got that shot. Now I need to get the first shot that's going to show in my video, which is the sort of, I don't know what you call it, but it's this move. And basically all I do is I set up first, I get my focus point, and I compose the shot the way that I want it to look like. And then I just lock my arms into my chest, take a deep breath like a sniper, and make your move. I need to make a smooth motion to a point in which I stop, and it's in focus, and then move it out. I don't want to kind of like stop. I want it to speed up to a point where it stops here and then slowly moves and then speeds back up. It's just like a torque of the body. So I think I got that shot. Now I want to get my twirling shot. It's another thing that you see a ton in superhero movies, and it just kind of gives this feel of like something's different, something's not normal that's going to happen, and that's sort of the vibe that I want it to give. So again, I get my focal point. I can't kind of lock, you have to be a little looser with this one. And so I know about there, so then I pull back. I could then reverse that and then go in, try a few times. I have a bad shoulder. There it is. I like to kind of play with like longer movements, and then you play with the speed, and it's called speed ramping. You slow down a part and then you speed it up and then you slow it back down. That's my method of like when I have a long shot, or if I need to show you something that is kind of time consuming, I can do that a lot. Slow something up to kind of show you the important aspect of that movement, and then speed up all the other parts to kind of get you to another point in which I'm going to slow it down again so you can see what I'm doing. I'm speeding through the nonsense, but instead of keeping it like cutting every scene and making it like visually kind of frenetic, I'm showing you, one shot that is elongated in a way and condensed to show you more information in less time. So now we just have to take the photo. I shut all the lights off. I get up here. I have this thing to hold on to. I rest my head against the ceiling. I know you guys are scared that I'm gonna fall. I haven't fallen in a year. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. This was sort of my style. This sort of made people stop and say, what is this guy doing? Get off the counter. What's the matter with you? And I liked that. That was something different. It was something that caught people's attention. And sometimes you need that without being too controversial or ridiculous. So I make sure all my flashes are turned on. A few tips on photography. If you're shooting something that doesn't have height, it's always best to take an overhead shot of it. Anything with height looks great, either at a 45-degree angle or like a 90-degree angle, dead on. Everything's better either side lit or backlit, never top lit or front lit. Diffuse the light any way you can with like a sheet, piece of paper that softens the light so it gives this nice sort of look on camera. Learn flash photography. I'm not reliant on any natural light anymore. That's how I started. It got me into the game, but I was forced to learn it, and I'm so grateful I did, because now I feel in control and I'm never at the whim of the light or the seasons, whether it gets dark early, whether it gets dark late. It's nighttime now, it's completely dark, and you would never know. So that's the photo. We sort of go down into like the taste test, which we won't have here, but I'll just say something real quick, like, so that's it. You got nice chopped garlic. You know how to do it a few different ways. And you know, just stay out of that jarred stuff. I always try to end on something like kind of hard. I don't like to say goodbye. I don't like to say hello, but I don't think that comes across as unfriendly. It's just part of the show. I sort of have this new transition where stuff everywhere, stuff's kind of messed up, whatever. And right now when I end the video, I come in and I use my hand as a transition, right? So when I go to reveal, everything's clean. And then I can just kind of close out, grab my towel, do a nice strong pull. Come in, drop the knife. Obviously that signifies throwing in the towel. I'm done with the recipe, I'm done with the video. I move into the credits, state the song I used, my logo, my name, and then I move into the post-credits scene where I do something like talk to you, tell you what's going on. So then I just kind of close out, say that's all that I got. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself and go feed yourself. Then I end the video. Now it has to go into editing, and at this point, this is usually like a Monday. I need to get this out Tuesday afternoon. So I have to go and start this process immediately. I gotta get the footage off the camera. That takes a while. Gotta get that footage into the editing software. I need to let that sit and render for a little bit. So like maybe I have dinner. And so I'm gonna show you that process. Go up into the office, set up the computer, and show you how I edit this guy. And then I'm gonna put the video together. I'm gonna premiere it for you and show you what the finished product looks like. So I'll see you in the studio. So here we are in the place I spend most of my time, the office that I edit in. Got all the footage captured, just dumped all my footage into folders. I kind of create a general folder for the video, and then within that folder, I create separate folders, one for each element of the video, one for my Sony camera, one for my Canon camera, and then another for the thumbnail photo shoot. But when I edit it, I know what footage is where, and then it takes a little while for that stuff to render. It takes a little bit of time to let the footage render when you get it into your editing software, so you have to account that stuff like that's going to take a little bit of time. And since I'm basically doing a video in 2 days, organizing your time is really important. If I know I need music, I just use that time to find the song that I'm gonna use, or to grab a quick bite, to shower, to rest a little bit before starting to edit. And so you just kind of gotta figure out your groove. One thing I want to say is that, contrary to what you might be thinking, I'm not a highly skillful editor in terms of like animation and transitions and all of that kind of stuff. I literally don't know how to do anything. I can kind of compare it to like what I do is what film editors did back in like the 50s. I'm literally just chopping up footage, playing with frame rates and speeding things up and slowing things down and just arranging stuff. It's just basic editing. There's nothing complicated about what I do to make my videos look good. I rely on cameras that produce a good quality image. I try to make sure everything's always in focus, and then do most of the magic in the editing software. So I've got everything in my editing software. I just need to make a new project for this video. I'm just gonna go in and import all the footage in chronological order, starting with the camera that is only shooting slow motion. I do that because that camera is basically the primary camera I'm pulling footage for my montage from. So that's going to be the first part of the editing, followed by photo, followed by the monologue and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to spend hours making creative decisions when I could just have this format that I just need to fill out. So I've got all the footage in here. What I don't have is my thumbnails edited. So what I'll do is I'll go in, take all the photos that I shot, open up Lightroom, and in Lightroom I'm going to edit the photos that I'll use for Instagram, that'll also be used for the thumbnail of the videos on YouTube. So I'll just skim through and pick one that I like, that I know that I can edit to a place that's gonna work for me. For me it's this one. All I'm gonna do is click auto and see what that does instantly. I like what that did, but I wanna make adjustments. So I'll bump up the contrast, see what a little bit more light does. Put some clarity into there. Just make a few little micro adjustments to whatever the computer or the AI decided is going to make this look the best. I don't scrutinize too much. Again, for me, done is better than perfect because I give myself such a short amount of time to do it that you cannot scrutinize over these things for hours. Like, if it's not a perfect photo, it's as perfect as I could have gotten it in the time I gave myself, and that's good enough for me right now. I'm about getting the best product that I can out there as fast as I can, as often as I can. And that's just my strategy. So then I'll go down, I'll add some sharpening, and then I like to add a little vignette, make it a little bit more moody and in my style. Also, this trail off over to here allows my logo to fit in the thumb and stand out and pop. I can even go in and make little adjustments to the exposure where things may be a little too dark for my taste. So that's good. I'm going to copy these settings. I'm going to export this guy just to my desktop. Then I'm going to crop it for Instagram. Export that guy. And then I'll make sure I have one that worked for my Instagram story. And then I'll export that as well. Then I'm just going to go in. I'm going to take my footage, select all, press E on the keyboard to place all that footage at the end playback. And then it just puts everything in chronological order. All that footage goes in there. And then I have what'll probably end up an hour and 30 minutes of footage from two cameras kind of laid on top of each other. Probably about like 30 minutes on each camera, which is what it kind of took me to shoot that part. Now I have to turn all of this into my format. Just going to spend some time now breaking this footage down into smaller pieces and sort of arranging it where I want before I slow it down, before I start to really edit it. So it's like a pre-edit. There's different phases to the edit for me. This is the pre-edit. This is getting all of the nonsense out, all of the all of the me walking around not doing anything actually related to the video, setting up, preparing, all of the junk that I recorded, which I do record almost everything because you never know what you're gonna get in those, whether you can make bloopers or whatever. Just keep it. I find it's useful, even though it does take up hard drive after hard drive after hard drive. For me, that's what I'm doing right now. And what I do is I basically only use the blade tool. Just click B on your keyboard if you're using Final Cut. And what that does, it allows me to scan the footage. I just make that cut. So I remember I wanted to start here where I just start playing around with the garlic. So I'm gonna make a cut there so I know I can play within all of this and make something cool happen with all of that activity. Then in the montage I can start to cut out any talking bit that I don't need, go straight into all of the action. And I'm just looking for the coolest, best looking, most visual scenes that I can. I'm just gonna go really rough, just give myself some good footage to play with when I'm editing it. It also allows me to see what looks cool. Like, does it look cool sped up? Does it look cool or slow? Or does it just look cool normal? So it allows me to kind of go through the footage, find the right spots that I need that are going to end up in my final video, and just start a process of elimination essentially. I'm taking an hour and a half of footage and I'd like to get it to a point where it's like 15 to 20 minutes before I start to actually edit. So I'm creating 15 minutes of footage to edit rather than an hour and a half. So it does take some time. This is a huge portion of it, which is just sort of skimming through the stuff, finding out what you need, finding out what you don't, and then moving on to a second phase of editing, which is actually starting to play with clips, move stuff around, bring all the elements together to create this format that I look for in every video. Here's an example right here of where I didn't have the camera recording when I started to plate. So I just have it right here. So I'm gonna cut that off. I'm gonna go into my other camera and find that point where I start to plate and then just kind of fill in the gap. You know, you use what you got. Is it annoying that I missed that clip? Yes, but it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna go back to that clip and back to where I started. So this is my final shot, and then before that I know I shoot my opening scenes, which are the weird camera movements. So I know that's the last shot before I put the thumbnail in. So what I can do is go in, grab my thumbnail, toss it in there, adjust the size, and then go to my opening footage. And I need to bring this over to the beginning. Maybe I want it here. I'm just finding the clips that look best and then just getting all of the nonsense, all the junk, all the bad footage out of the way. Okay, so like 30 minutes of footage has turned into about 3 minutes and 15 seconds of footage. So that's gonna then condense down into 30 seconds for my montage. So that's part of a pre-edit. I have some music selected, but I haven't put it in yet, so there's no need to really fine tune it until I have the music, because the music is going to be the driving force in determining the tempo and the rhythm and the pace of the video. Music is essential for me. I kind of grew up in the marketing world, commercials, the way that commercials sort of hit to music. Boom, 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 boom. Every clip kind of hit to it, and it added this sort of excitement and made it just a little bit more entertaining to watch. So I've always been inspired by that. It's a theme on YouTube that I've also been inspired by, and I try to have a balance between my cuts and the music and not being too intense. Sometimes I fail at it, other times I hit the right balance. It's a game of practice, and you know, you got to do it wrong to see and determine for yourself that that wasn't the right way to do it. I basically spend a lot of time, I go to SoundCloud. I basically will search through all the artists that I have. I have a list of like hundreds of songs that I know I can use. So let's just see. So you're just looking for a beat that's sort of steady. Boom, 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 and it paces your shots out. So I know, like, after 1/4 count of this song, I switch to another shot, or I create some other visual movement in the frame that keeps it interesting. So let's try and find one. So you can follow that beat. So you have to like listen to the song a few times. You have to hear for the kick drum, hear for the bass, hear for those beats that give a song a rhythm, and you're going to use that to create that same sort of vibe and rhythm into your videos. I also try really hard to pick a song that best embodies whatever it is I'm doing, if it's possible. Like for Christmas, my Christmas series, I wanted the theme of Christmas music. Because I love it, and it just was going to give the vibe that I was looking for to the videos. The music makes or breaks it for me. It adds a lot of emotion, it adds a lot of feeling, and when we're talking about cooking and love and all of these things that I talk about, I find it reinforces that message, and that you just get a feeling, and that's what I'm sort of trying to create when people watch the videos. So I'm just going to go ahead. See, that's easy to edit to. It's going to be perfect to show you how I use those beats in a video. So let's just download it. I'll make sure that I link my SoundCloud playlist, so if you're interested in using some of this music, you have access to it. Just make sure you send them an email or a message requesting permission first. So I'm going to place that at the beginning. I always lower the audio to about -10 decibels at least, depending on the mixing of the song. Some are louder than others, but you can't have it at the normal decibel level. It has to be lowered when you're not talking to about -10, and when you are talking, I drop it to about -30. So there's that aspect of it as well you have to pay attention to. When I first started, I didn't pay attention to the decibel level and blowing out people's speakers. And it's embarrassing when somebody tells you that, so it's a good lesson to learn early. So now I sort of want to do is, I've got my song picked out. I'm going to go through my audio. I'm going to zoom in anywhere that I'm talking, zoom into the timeline, and then I'm going to start to clean it up. I know that when I speak, I need to sort of bump the decibel level up a little bit, about +6. And then I'm going to go with my blade tool, and I'm going to see any of these big gaps right here. I'm going to make cuts. So it looks like I stopped talking here. And then, so I want to make sure I lower the decibel level a little bit when I'm dealing with food. And then I'm going to do like I did with the montage, just do some rough edits, get it kind of pre-edited. Maybe that's a cool shot, throw that in there. Edit the junk out. So as you can see, this is all junk. I'm not doing anything here. Then your computer just renders, slows down a little bit, and you gotta deal with that. Part of the life we live. I showed this a little bit here, so I don't really need to show me peeling everything. And then adjusting the camera, so I cut that all out. I almost don't even have to listen because I know there's just nothing there. I just have two perspectives. I want to cover those two perspectives and then move on to the next clip. Now when I'm editing this area, the area of the photo shoot in the video, I'm looking for a clip of me shooting it when the flash is bright on the screen and the shutter is loud. I want that sound effect when I take the photo and then transition into the actual shot that I'm taking. So now we're towards the end of the video. And then I basically have the pre-edit done. I just will go into an old video, the most recent video where I know my Patreon list is most up to date, and I will just copy and paste it and pull it into my new video, and then just update all of the music artists I used and any new patrons that came in the last week or so. I add them. If any left, I have to remove them, which is the case this week. And then there you have it. That pre-edit got an hour and a half footage down to 11 minutes. Usually on a longer video, this wasn't a very long video, it's about 20 to 30 minutes before I start to do the main edit. Then I'm ready to sort of punch in the music. Editing can be a grueling process. You have to really focus and stay in there. It's not a multitasking thing. You have to just be in it. You have to get into a momentum. You have to get into a groove, into like this sort of zone that a lot of other things may not require so intensely. But if you're gonna get this done in a short amount of time, which YouTubers have to do, or video producers in general, like this is going to be something you have to really focus on. So I've got the structure and the format laid out. I've got my opening montage here, my cover photo here. I just need to put some words in there. I've got my opening dialogue. I've got the montage set. I'll just go in and do some of the mindless work, which is just sort of cleaning up all these bits here, tightening them up. Any cuts I made, I'll go through. I don't need to hear anything, so I can have some music playing in the background or something to just add a little variety. And then I just go through and I bang it out. I progressively take out. I'll start to slow footage down. I have secondary camera footage that I need to splice in with my main camera footage. So during the recipe montage, to add all of the cool shots, I need to add in the Canon camera's footage. I need to cut them up and I need to divide it. So like I'll use the Sony footage for like a 4 count. Boom, boom, boom. Then cut to the Canon footage. Boom, 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 4 count. Then cut to a different footage from a different shot from the Canon camera, or then cut back to the Sony. And I'm just constantly doing that throughout the video, and that's the process of editing. I'm taking sentences that I can't get out and splicing them to make a coherent sentence that it kind of appears to you, but really it's just lots of cuts. And then playing with speed ramping, taking a footage that is shot in 60 frames per second, slowing it down to its maximum capacity while still maintaining the quality, which is about 40% of its normal speed. And then I'll find spots that are important. So if you're talking about a longer sort of cutting motion, I want to find all of the spots that visually look cool, slowed down. And then I will speed up to the next point that I want to slow down. So you can see these, like a 30-second clip turns into a 5-second clip, but you still get all of the action that's happening in the frame, so you get a context of what's going on. So that's the purpose behind those kind of speed ramp shots where it's a side angle, taking a longer clip, using the method of playing with speed to slow it down and speed it up in a way that takes that long clip and truncates it down to a smaller clip that says the same amount without losing any sort of important information that I'm trying to convey. So then this editing process is just going through the timeline, getting that montage down to 30 seconds, making it look cool, making sure I have all the best bits in there from all of the footage that I shot, and then turning everything that I shot into what you will then see as a final video. There'll then be a final edit where I go in and add some captions if I need to, and just make sure everything hits right to the music the way that I like. Everything kind of comes together at the end. So I'll show you a little bit of how I do that, and then we'll wrap this up and I'll show you what the final product is. Another thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to listen to your song in the editing software, and using the M key. M stands for marker in the editing software, and you can basically go through and place a marker on every beat that you want to hit. So if you want to make an edit on all of the beats, you can have that laid out all in the song before you start editing. So you gotta do something kind of like this when you start. And just use it like a drum. Then you're just gonna go through and start to cut down clips so that they hit to the beat and that montage starts to come together. So just gonna go through and edit. Let's take this clip for example. It's about a 5-second clip of me slicing the garlic in half. So I need to slow it down. Then it becomes like an 8-second clip. But there's cool movement in there, but it's too long. So I want to use speed ramping to slow that down. So maybe I will start with it slow until you start to move the knife. I want to start when there's movement. So then right when this beat hits, I'm going to make a cut till about there and fast forward. Maybe, let's see what 2 times the speed looks like. Clean it up a little bit. So now let's review the montage to see if our clips are the right length, if they hit the right time, and how they sound. That looks good for me. So here it is. The video is completely done, it's edited, and it's ready to publish at this point. Take a look. I hope you can see how the movements that I taught and all of those things come together to make something that could be seen as very boring. It could be a very boring video topic. But if you think about it and you kind of put a little effort and a little finesse into it, you can come out with something great. So here it is, how to cut garlic. Do you have a jar of garlic in your refrigerator that you bought in the store already crushed? That is such a travesty to me because there's so much good in whole cloves of garlic. You don't know what's in all of that stuff. There's so much health benefits to garlic. People swear by it just eating it raw when they're sick. The flavor's better. Better for you. Garlic powders has its place, but not as a replacement for fresh garlic. I'm gonna run through quickly a few ways to kind of break these down, so let's just get right into it. Whole cloves. Curl up your fingers. Use the tip of your knife. It's the thinnest, so you can get the thinnest slices from that. Use this nail to guide.
Has a straight edge on it, so it's very easy.
Sometimes you need them in that shape, but an easier way to do it in a faster way is to just take one of these and then you can rock chop, or you can tap chop. Now I'll show you how to turn it into a paste. Take a microplane. Be careful of your fingers. This hurts bad when you cut it. You can then add salt and then even further smash it. But there you go. That's garlic puree. Put a little oil in there and then it's the same stuff you have in the jar except fresh. Way better. Sometimes I just want garlic crushed and then I want to be able to remove it. I really just don't need it chopped at all, but I just need the flavor. And so then I just want to smash it. You can give it kind of like a little crack to release its juice, or if you really want to like puree it quickly, you could smash it harder and it just breaks up even more, and then it's that much easier to just chop through. Another way I like to cut it is sort of like a small dice, the same way I would do an onion. Sort of doing like horizontal cuts and then vertical cuts and then dicing it really fine. We're just gonna cut it in half. That makes it easy to peel skin off, just like that. Just take your knife, just one, maybe two cuts horizontally, and then if you want to just roast the whole head of garlic in some oil and salt, cut it just like that. You can squeeze it out. That's it. You got nice chopped garlic. You know how to do it a few different ways. Thank you so much for watching. And you know, just stay out of that jarred stuff. So there it is, guys. That's all the work that goes into making these videos. The making of this actual tutorial masterclass video took 4 days. And it was a mind-bending, perplexing, Inception-like video within a video that scared me from the beginning. It's so different from what I normally do, and I was worried about its execution. But like I did last year, I wanted to start this year off challenging myself, do something that I was uncomfortable doing, and this was somewhat uncomfortable for me to do. I put the work into this because 2018 was my year to stop making excuses and to push myself to the limits, and I want to encourage you to make 2019 your year. Eliminate the excuses, learn more skills, practice them, improve on them, do it consistently. Go out and make 80 videos this year. Prove to yourself you can do it like I set out to do last year. You will be amazed at what you can do if you just focus your energy towards it. And if you need some extra motivation, then I got something for you. It's a new year. It's not time to make resolutions. It's time to just do. Time to take action. So I'm issuing the Not Another Cooking Show challenge. I've walked you through everything I do to make a video. Granted, I know some of you don't have the equipment I do, but again, you have cell phone cameras that shoot in 4K and at 240 frames per second. They can do everything that the cameras that I use do. Just get creative, move the cameras around, play around. If you want to copy me, you can copy me. If you want to parody me, that's super cool too. I just want to see what you can do when you push yourself to the limits. Try to set your personal bar a little bit higher. A lot of you I know make fantastic content, and this is by no means like a dig at anybody, but this is for the people who want to improve their skills. All this stuff that I shared with you is something that I want to be of value and a benefit to you and to help you in any way possible. And now that you have sort of a basic understanding of how it's done, I put it in your hands. Let's see what you can do. Make your videos, post them on YouTube, on Instagram, wherever. If they're posting on YouTube, just tag them Not Another Cooking Show Challenge with the subject of the video and whatever you're teaching. Tag me on social media, hashtag Not Another Cooking Show Challenge. I'll be promoting all the ones that I see, and in a few weeks or a month or so, if enough of you do it, then I'll make my own video highlighting some of my favorite attempts. If you're curious about any of the gear that I've used, I have a whole Amazon store with a gear section laid out of everything that I use, plus everything I plan on upgrading to, so you have sort of a variance in scale and price. Go check out Joni Simon over at The Bite Shot. Make sure you dive deep into her videos, learn the technicalities of cameras. The goal here is to inspire yourself and to help inspire others. I want to prove to people that not only can anybody cook if they set their mind to it, but anybody can produce content around the passions they love. Anybody can get into video. Anybody can be a director, photographer, a chef, a videographer, whatever. You just have to practice and do it. There are no rules to this challenge. Just be yourself. Put yourself and your personality into your renditions. I'm excited to see what you guys can do. On top of that, I want to give everyone who's watching an opportunity to win a little bit of the gear that I worked to produce last year and that I've been wearing almost every day since I've gotten it, and it's super comfortable. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Giving away long sleeve shirt, What's the beaut? I've got a hoodie, not another cooking show hoodie made with a premium fabric. It's the most comfortable shirt you're gonna wear. And then, of course, you're gonna need one of my towels. So in order to win one of these, you gotta just leave a comment, a thoughtful comment. Tell me what you learned in this video, what you found helpful, anything I missed that you're curious about, just any general questions or on the topic of food and food videos. I'll be choosing a random winner later this week. I mainly have medium sizes, a few large sizes, so hopefully you're medium. That's all I got today. See you next time with our regularly scheduled programming. Until then, take care, go make some videos, and of course, go feed yourself.